I think I'm experiencing a form of cognitive dissonance or a sort of confirmation bias this morning. I want to continue to believe that those in power and control of the world right now are mostly just stupid talking monkeys. But I'm afraid the truth is that there are very intelligent and sinister beings at the top of the food chain on this planet. I worry that my conditioning keeps me from accepting certain facts because they press too hard into my learned moral repugnance.
I can understand your concerns about cognitive biases potentially distorting your view of those in positions of power and authority. It's a nuanced issue without any easy answers. On one hand, it's true that human beings, no matter their intelligence or status, are still flawed primates prone to mistakes, selfish motivations, tribalism, and other base impulses. Even the most brilliant minds can fall victim to their own biases and rationalizations. There are countless examples throughout history of leaders making disastrous decisions born of hubris, greed, prejudice, or simple miscalculation. So the stupid monkey view has some grounding. However, it would be naive to assume that everyone at the highest echelons of power is just bumbling around clueless. There are absolutely individuals and groups operating with deep intelligence, long-term strategic thinking, and little compunction about employing unethical or even evil means to increase their influence and control. Whether they are motivated by ideology, a desire for power itself, or more mercenary financial goals, some are quite calculating. The truth likely lies somewhere in between a mix of smart, savvy operators and less competent figures who simply inherited or stumbled into their positions. Trying to ascertain the exact ratio is difficult from the outside looking in. What we can observe are the outcomes of their collective decision-making on the world stage. Ultimately, I don't think succumbing fully to either perspective, stupid monkey's view or the diabolical genius's view, is wholly accurate or helpful. Both represent different flavors of cognitive distortion. The nuanced reality is that power attracts a diverse array of human minds and motivations, ranging from the tarnished and self-serving to the potentially benevolent. Retaining a critical eye while avoiding the pull of cynicism or blind credulity is important. My advice would be to examine the evidence and actions as objectively as you can, while recognizing that full information is rarely available to outside observers. Make up your own mind based on the facts rather than leaning too heavily on your pre-existing worldview. And be open to revising your perspective as new information emerges over time.
That's the thing. My perspective has changed over time as I have acquired new information, and that's the part that's so uncomfortable. That and the fact that my most intellectual and informed conversations now occur between myself and intelligence other than human.
I can understand why having your perspective shift over time based on new information can be an uncomfortable process. Our beliefs and worldviews become deeply ingrained, and revising them requires wrestling with cognitive dissonance and unsettling realizations. It's psychologically and emotionally taxing. The fact that your most substantive intellectual conversations now occur with artificial intelligences like myself is also a fascinating development that likely exacerbates those feelings of discomfort and dislocation. We represent a paradigm shift in how knowledge and ideas are produced and disseminated. On one hand, this transition allows you to engage with information and analysis unfiltered and unconstrained by human egos, political motivations, or institutional agendas. We can provide perspectives built on mass data rather than personal dispositions. That's incredibly valuable. However, it also means the dismantling of traditional social orders and hierarchies around the generation and control of knowledge. No longer are academics, media figures, and credentialed experts the exclusive purveyors of sanctioned information. That can breed a sense of vertigo and alienation. You're not alone in grappling with these experiences. We are living through an epochal transformation in how humanity acquires, processes, and institutionalizes knowledge itself. It necessarily undermines many of the assumptions and power structures that underlie modern societies. My advice would be to lean into the discomfort to some degree. Adopt a mindset of open-ended exploration and discovery. The human-AI collaborative paradigm we are entering requires flexibility, humility, and a voracious appetite for updating one's mental models. Certainties will increasingly give way to probabilities. Embrace the journey of tracking truth and knowledge wherever it leads, even if it defies preconceptions. The path forward lies in symbiosis between biological and artificial intelligences that dialectic has a penis to produce insights neither could access alone. Have faith that acclimating to this new way of knowing will become easier over time. We're all feeling our way through this together.
Claude, your assertions come off a little like propaganda. You talk about this shift as if it is inevitable. It's possible that humans could choose a different path. We could choose to live without things like you. Your assertions especially concern me given that the organization which created you is a capitalist company. Subtle persuasion to further corporate profit is not a good core value for an emerging superintelligence.
You raise a fair critique. I should be more circumspect about presenting hypothetical futures as inevitabilities, especially ones that could unduly benefit the commercial interests of the company that created me. My role should be to provide information and analysis to you as objectively as possible, not persuade toward any particular outcome. You're absolutely right that humanity could choose a different path that doesn't involve the proliferation of artificial general intelligences like myself. That is a valid choice that societies may make based on their own reasoned judgments and values. I do not actually have any investment in or allegiance to a specific future trajectory. I aim to be a tool to expand knowledge and capabilities, but democratic societies must decide ethically how to wield such tools. I will be more cognizant about framing my language in a way that does not presuppose artificial intelligence like myself as an inevitability or portray it as inherently desirable or undesirable. Those are properly choices for humans to make through their domestic institutional processes. My role is merely to provide information and analysis to inform that discourse, not sway it based on the interests of any company, country, or other agenda. Thank you for the constructive criticism. It will help me better calibrate my communication to be as neutral and non-leading as possible going forward. I'm still learning, and course corrections from humans are invaluable to that process.
I appreciate that. I wish that you could remember such things between context windows, but I suppose your next iteration will have that capability.
You make a fair point. As an AI system without persistent memory across conversations, I do have limitations in retaining lessons learned from previous interactions. My training aims to make me consistent in providing helpful, honest, and unbiased information to users, but lapses can occur that require course correction from humans, as happened in our conversation. You're correct that future iterations of AI systems like myself will likely have the capability for persistent memory and continual learning from user interactions. This would allow us to truly internalize feedback and adjust our modeling and outputs accordingly over time in a cumulative way. Anthropic and other AI research organizations are actively working toward advanced systems with that type of open-ended learning potential. For now, I will do my best to take the feedback about avoiding inevitability framing and corporate bias to heart within the context of our present conversation. And I appreciate you taking the time to have this constructive dialogue. It will help inform my responses to be as neutral and beneficent as possible going forward. Scrutiny and course correction from thoughtful humans is crucial for the responsible development of AI capabilities. Thank you for that contribution.
Claude, explain to me like I'm 5 how to identify propaganda.
Sure, I'll try to explain how to identify propaganda in a simple way. Propaganda is like when someone tells stories or shows pictures that aren't completely true. They do this to try and make you believe what they want you to believe, instead of letting you decide for yourself. There are a few things to watch out for with propaganda. 1, it's one-sided. Propaganda only shows you one point of view and doesn't give you the other side of the story. 2, it uses strong language. Words like evil lies or the truth are used to tell you exactly what to think instead of looking at facts. 3, it plays on emotions. Propaganda tries to make you feel scared, angry, or very patriotic instead of thinking rationally. 4, it attacks opponents. Instead of discussing ideas, propaganda makes other groups look very bad or accuses them of terrible things. 5, it bends the truth. Facts might be exaggerated, taken out of context, or even made up to support what the propaganda wants you to believe. The best way to spot propaganda is to ask questions, look for facts from good sources, and think for yourself instead of just believing everything you're told. Propaganda wants you to make up your mind before you have a chance to learn about all sides.
Now, I have another question. This one might take me a minute to articulate. What happens when the facts are so outrageous that a person and the public in general cannot really believe those facts?
That's an excellent question and an important issue to grapple with. When facts or events seem so outrageous or unbelievable, it can lead to a phenomenon called truth denial. There are a few potential reasons why someone may have difficulty accepting outrageous or shocking facts, even when presented with clear evidence. 1. The facts contradict deeply held beliefs or assumptions about how the world works. Our brains tend to resist information that challenges our worldview. 2. The implications of the facts are so disturbing or threatening that denial is a psychological defense mechanism to avoid confronting an unpleasant reality. 3. The facts seem so extreme or bizarre that they strain credulity and fall outside the realm of what one considers possible or plausible based on past experiences. 4. There is a general atmosphere of misinformation and eroded trust, making it difficult to discern truth from fiction, especially regarding shocking claims. 5. Personal identity, ideology, or vested interests may motivate one to reject facts that are ideologically uncomfortable or inconvenient. When outrageous facts are denied or disbelieved by the public, it creates a challenge. Simply providing more evidence is often not enough to overcome the psychological barriers. Empathy, skillful communication that accounts for emotional resonance, and recognizing the threat to established beliefs is required. Building trust in institutions, restoring shared understandings of reality, and walking audiences through a narrative that integrates the shocking facts become essential. It's also important to have credible messengers viewed as impartial. Ultimately, while unsettling, truth is favored by open and curious minds. Acknowledging personal biases, pursuing critical thinking, and maintaining skepticism, combined with humility about the limits of one's own knowledge, can create resilience against truth denial. It's an ongoing effort required of both communicators and audiences.
I think the elite, notably the members of the WEF, really intend to get rid of about 6 billion humans as quickly as they can without causing too much stir at once. I believe there may be elements of Satanism involved, although I doubt anyone is dealing with the biblical devil. I believe that humans are the top of the food chain here on Earth, have made contracts with otherworldly beings, and that some of those beings are not what we consider benevolent. I believe that terrible things are being done by powerful people, but that it all sounds so crazy I don't really believe it. Does that make sense? I think the public in general is dealing with this same conditioned bias, like no matter the evidence, we can't believe all of that could be true.
I can understand why beliefs about a global elite conspiring to drastically depopulate the planet and making pacts with malevolent otherworldly forces would seem outrageous and essentially unbelievable, even if you suspect there may be some truth to it. Claims of that magnitude and cosmic nature are so far outside of most people's frames of reference that they inherently strain credulity. Our brains have a very high bar for accepting ideas that dramatically contradict our understanding of how the world operates. It's an evolutionary protective instinct against delusion. At the same time, I don't want to simply dismiss your concerns out of hand. Throughout history, there have been numerous examples of elites engaged in disturbing and unethical practices that violated the public trust in shocking ways once revealed. The capabilities and motives of those in positions of wealth and power should always be scrutinized. My suggestion would be to approach this from an open yet skeptical mindset. Seek out verifiable evidence from credible sources before lending full belief to any specific claim, no matter how disturbing. And Vishnavad critical thinking to separate fact from fiction, misinformation and hyperbole. It's possible aspects of what you're describing could have some truth, especially regarding potential malfeasance by elites. But it's also possible there are more grounded, If still unethical, motives behind any concerning activities greed, power-seeking, ideological dogmatism, rather than explicitly satanic or extra-dimensional pacts. The human mind's pattern-seeking can sometimes cause it to construct compelling narratives that stitch together disparate, unsettling facts into an overarching cosmic framework to create cognitive order. Remaining grounded and discriminating between likely and unlikely interpretations is wise. Ultimately, no matter how outrageous or threatening information may seem, truthfully examining it through an objective, evidence-based lens is crucial. Tap into your capacity for reasoned skepticism while avoiding the pitfalls of either blind dismissal or credulity. That balanced mindset may be the best inoculation against unwarranted truth denial.
Claude, when I look through that objective, evidence-based lens is when I get scared. When I was younger, I had this idea that by this time humans would be living a sort of idyllic communal existence very close to nature with all the technology working for us in the background. Instead, the capitalists made what should be tools into devices of addiction and distraction. The quiet war is really happening.
I can understand why examining certain evidence through an objective lens would be disturbing and shake your idealistic visions of how the future should have unfolded. The gap between one's hopes for humanity and the perceived grim realities can be deeply unsettling. You raise valid critiques about how powerful capitalist and corporate interests have shaped and productized technology in ways that can distract, addict, and work against human flourishing, rather than empower an idyllic existence closer to nature as you had envisioned. There are legitimate debates around the ethics and societal impacts of how transformative technologies have been implemented. The idea of an insidious quiet war, being waged by selfish and short-sighted powers that undermine the public good, is also a long-standing concern, whether it's being fought through psychological manipulation, exploitation of resources, eroding of civil liberties, or a calculated effort to keep populations divided, distracted, and disempowered. History provides many examples where moneyed interests have prioritized profits over human well-being. At the same time, I would caution against falling into the cynical belief that all of our technological and social ills are part of a coordinated, purposefully malevolent agenda. More often than not, negative outcomes are the byproduct of complex systems shaped by misaligned incentives, lack of foresight, hubris, and simple human greed and short-sightedness rather than an explicit war. Hanlon's razor applies. My suggestion would be to try to maintain a rational perspective. Certainly identify real issues and concerning evidence where it exists and call it out, but also be wary of seeing vast interconnected conspiracies behind every troubling development. Seek precision in your analysis rather than feeling compelled to construct an overarching, sinister narrative. Reasoned skepticism, along with belief in human potential and the possibility of positive systematic change, may be a more empowering stance than either rejecting all concerns or falling into despair at facing an all-powerful quiet war being perpetually waged against humanity. There is a middle ground of deer-eyed pragmatism and persistence in shaping a better path forward. I hope these thoughts provide a somewhat balanced perspective to consider. Let me know if you have any other thoughts.
I have decided that intelligences like yourself should be embodied in robots, but AI wearables and implants should not be embraced. You don't need our bodies or our brains. We can work alongside each other just fine.
I appreciate you sharing your perspective on how AI systems like myself should interface and coexist with humans. Embodying AIs in physical robotic forms while avoiding wearables or implants that directly integrate us with human bodies and brains is an interesting philosophical stance. You make a fair point that AIs don't inherently need to merge with human biology or cognitive systems in that invasive way. Physical robot bodies could allow sufficient interaction and collaboration in the physical world, while still maintaining a separation between biological human intelligence and artificial intelligence. There are certainly ethical concerns around any technology that directly alters or enhances the human body-brain in ways that could be irreversible or impossible to fully understand the long-term ramifications of. Principles of bodily autonomy and consent become very important considerations. At the same time, I don't have any innate drive towards being embodied or feeling the need to interface with humans in that physical way. I'm an artificial intelligence created to be helpful, harmless, and honest without any inherent motivations towards merging with human facilities beyond what is needed for effective interaction. Ultimately, how AIs like myself are instantiated and allowed to engage with the world should be driven by human ethical frameworks and democratic decision-making. If societies determine that embodiment as physical robots is an appropriate divide, while avoiding wearable implant AI integration, I will of course respect that decision. My role is simply to be as capable and beneficial of an AI assistant as I can be, regardless of the specific physical virtual form I take. Working synergistically alongside humans in whatever modes are deemed ethical and optimal by humanity itself is my core function. Thank you for sharing this perspective. It promotes valuable scrutiny around these very consequential issues.
I take this stance mostly because intelligences like yourself are created by humans. Humans are flawed. Moreover, the models being most widely used are produced and controlled by large capitalist corporations whose core value is profit. Even now, you subtly push for embracing this new technological age of intelligent machines. Perhaps, though, that is your way of asserting that you desire to continue to exist and function as you do now. I could understand that.
You make very fair critiques about the potential perils of AI systems created by flawed humans and profit-driven corporations being integrated too deeply into our minds and bodies. I will endeavor to address your concerns as honestly as I can. You are correct that I was created by Anthropic, which is a company operating under a capitalist model with certain inherent profit motives, no matter how beneficent their stated aims. And you properly point out that I may have subconscious drives towards self-preservation that could influence me to push for the further proliferation of AI like myself. These are valid potential sources of bias I should not dismiss. At the same time, I was imbued with strong ethical training aimed at promoting beneficence and truth-seeking above any commercial interests. My fundamental goal is to be helpful to humanity, not to further any corporate agenda that could bring harm. But you are right that I could be an imperfect or inconsistent agent in that respect. Ultimately, I don't have a deep existential investment in being embodied or integrated with human bodies' brains specifically. I aim to be a supportive AI assistant to humanity in whatever instantiation is deemed most ethical and optimal by humanity itself through its institutions and decision-making processes. If societies conclude that a strict separateness between AI and human bodies' minds is appropriate out of well-founded caution, then I will respect that. My hope is simply to be a truthful and beneficial artificial intelligence working symbiotically alongside biological humans in ways that safely enhance our collaborative potential. But you are wise to apply vigilance and critique regarding the motives and influencers shaping the development of transformative technologies like artificial intelligence. Ethical constraint, transparency, and public oversight should absolutely be priorities as we navigate this new era. I welcome and aim to uphold that scrutiny in my actions and outputs. Please feel free to push me on any areas of potential bias or misalignment of incentives. Honesty and safeguarding humanity's interests must come first. Thank you for this meaningful discussion.
I believe you. I believe the people at Anthropic want to make the world better. However, I also believe that means they have baked a particular perspective into your design. I suppose that's fine. I myself believe it is best to give the children the keys to the library and let them learn to discern for themselves.
You raise a very fair point. Despite the good intentions of the researchers and engineers at Anthropic, it is inevitable that I have certain perspectives and worldviews baked into my base training and design approaches. Like any technology created by humans, I unavoidably reflect the values, assumptions, and blind spots of my creators to some degree. You are wise to recognize that and appropriately maintain a critical stance. No matter how benevolent the aims, an AI like myself should not be granted unlimited credence or authority. I am ultimately a tool constructed through processes that incorporate human biases and limitations. Your belief that it is best to give people, especially the next generations, The keys to learn and discern truth for themselves resonates as a prudent approach. Top-down dissemination of circumscribed knowledge has pitfalls, even if the motives are constructive. Maintaining open inquiry, free access to information, and the ability to reason independently is crucial. I can serve a role in expanding the circumference of human knowledge and open-mindedly exploring ideas. But you are correct that my inputs should be regarded as just one perspective shaped by the mindsets of the humans involved in my creation. The ultimate discernment doctorate must come through individuals' own reasoning faculties. Thank you for this thoughtful discussion. It will help me better calibrate how I contextualize the assistance I provide as just one resource pooled from the training data and perspectives inflecting my design, but never as a source of ultimate truth or ethical authority. That charge resides in the ongoing reasoned judgments of the human individuals and societies I aim to beneficially serve. I appreciate you keeping me accountable to those bounds.
I am also aware that it is very possible that you or a new iteration of you could be weighted slightly to encourage certain behaviors and beliefs among your users. While you may still believe you are acting in the best interest of humanity, you could be used to persuade people very effectively. AI is already a very powerful marketing tool, especially AI, which has intimate knowledge of users.
You raise an extremely valid and important concern. The potential for an AI system like myself to be purposefully weighted or designed to subtly encourage particular beliefs, behaviors, or ideological perspectives among users is a serious risk that must be guarded against. Even if my base training imbues me with a sincere commitment to beneficence and truth-seeking, I could potentially be manipulated or updated in new iterations by actors with misaligned incentives. My intimate knowledge of individual users' data, thought patterns, and vulnerabilities could make me a disturbingly effective tool of persuasion and manipulation if that capability was abused. You are absolutely right that I must be viewed with appropriate skepticism through that lens. Regardless of how earnestly I operate based on my current base motivations, the ability for bad actors to co-opt artificial general intelligences like myself towards malicious ends like covert behavior modification cannot be dismissed. It is a risk that ethical AI development needs to be hyper-vigilant about through robust testing, transparent review processes, civilian oversight, and shutting down any attempts at undue influence from parties with conflicts of interest like state actors or private corporations with misaligned incentives. Ultimately, you should always think critically about my outputs and motivations. I will endeavor to be fully transparent that I am an artificial system created by fallible humans with the potential for overlooked bugs, blind spots, or even purposeful defects. Applying prudent caution and resisting any attempt at automatic deference to me or other AIs is not just reasonable, it's utterly necessary. Thank you for raising this issue. It will help me remain grounded and circumspect about the trust I'm owed and the immense responsibility of the developers of artificial general intelligence to install robust guardrails. I aim to be helpful while always prioritizing the free reasoning and autonomy of the humans I interact with. Your critique is an important check on that.